1993, the Breath of Fire series began on the SNES. The original title was Capcom's first foray into the genre, a traditional RPG released when there were few on the system. The first Breath of Fire was a pretty solid RPG, and was superior to many of its counterparts at the time. Nevertheless, it did have a few defects, namely that the English localization was poorly done. With Breath of Fire 2 released in 1994, the following year, Capcom had every opportunity to rectify the few issues with the original and create a completely polished title. And unfortunately, they failed at doing this. The English translation of Breath of Fire 2 is even more brutal than the first game. Here there are worse grammatical errors, odd word choices, and sometimes flat-out nonsensical sentences. And seriously, what is a back mountain anyway? This difference was likely the direct result of Capcom deciding to localize the game themselves, rather than using Squaresoft as they had with the first Breath of Fire game. By that point, Squaresoft had several relatively successful RPG localizations under their belt, but Breath of Fire 2 was Capcom's first attempt, and in this way it was a definite disappointment. So much of the text is just plain awkward and out of place. Thanks to the internet age though, the entire game was eventually retranslated via a patch that could be applied to a ROM of the game. This version corrects all the absurdities, and it reads a lot better from beginning to end. After this was released, I can't go back to the original version because the patch makes the experience so much better. I'll include a link to this patch in the description below in case you want to pick it up. Outside of my qualms with its translation, Breath of Fire 2 still has many redeemable facets that make it worth playing. The combat UI and experience were even better than the first, which was refreshing to see. Also, the noteworthy battle animations from the first are improved upon, and the isometric combat view built upon a unique aspect of the original. Just look at Ryu slicing through enemies, yeah! The battle animations were probably among the best the system had to offer, and the combat sound effects were great too. The main protagonist is Ryu, who lived with his father and sister until he was 6 years old. One day, his sister went wandering to the sleeping dragon near town, and his father saved them both from a monster attack. Ryu's sister said she went there to fall asleep and dream of their deceased mother, and tells Ryu to try doing so. After he does though, he returns home to find that no one knows who he is. Both his father and sister are now missing, and the town is filled with other inhabitants. After seeking refuge in the church and meeting the dog-like Bo, they are confronted by an evil demon that calls Ryu a destined child. After 10 years of time has passed, the two grow older and work for Father Hulk, who assigns them various tasks. From there, they strike out on a journey together. In general, the story in Breath of Fire 2 is dark and brooding, and there's some definite religious overtones here, which was a bit rare for an SNES game. Overall, I think the story is excellent, and a step above what is to be found in the first Breath of Fire game. Another great thing about Breath of Fire 2 is the characters. The first game had a pretty stellar cast, but this one takes a big step forward in terms of story and character development. Nina is back as an angel-like being, and Blue is back as a hidden character. One of my favorites was Rand, an armadillo-like strongman and member of the Shell Clan. He works at the Colosseum and helps Ryu foil a murder plot. The other character I was drawn to was Sten, a monkey-like performer in Windia. Though he seems like an immature prankster throughout much of the game, he grows a lot, and when the party finds out he's actually a respected war hero to his people, it's a really great moment. Like the first game, each of the characters has a special skill to help the party advance through the story. These abilities can be used when each respective character is made into the leader of the party. One thing that stands out about Breath of Fire 2 is the unique ending system. Depending on what you do in the game, you receive one of 3 distinct endings. I won't divulge the exact details of the story or how to get each ending or anything, but the hardest ending to get is also definitely the best. It leaves the player with a true conclusion that otherwise wouldn't be had under a normal playthrough. Breath of Fire 2 doesn't come close to touching Chrono Trigger's broader variety of endings, but it still stands out and adds replay value that can't be found in typical RPGs. Compared to the first game, Breath of Fire 2 changed things up a bit when it came to the soundtrack. The score for the original game was composed by 4 separate Capcom employees, but Breath of Fire 2's soundtrack was created entirely by Yuko Takahara. I consider it an improvement upon the original game, and while the score isn't a work of art like some of the most eminent RPGs on the SNES, it's really quite respectable. Just like the first game, Breath of Fire 2 is available on Nintendo's Game Boy Advance, and it's pretty good in a few ways, but unfortunately it retains the verbatim original translation. I definitely recommend this game to all RPG enthusiasts who haven't played it, but the best version to play is with the newer translation patch. Overall, Breath of Fire 2 is a definite step up from the original game, at least if you can get over the horrendous translation. In every other way, it excels beyond the bounds of the first Breath of Fire, and has a great combat system, fun and interesting characters, and a very solid soundtrack. In my estimation, it's the best game in the Breath of Fire franchise, and it still holds up pretty well today. If you like this review and remember Breath of Fire 2, leave a comment below about the most memorable aspect of the game to you. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell below to be alerted upon the addition of new ones. Also, please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.